But yeah, we got our run sheet here, and it sounds like we're ready to go. Lex has checked and said that we sound good. So you ready to get started?
Sure.
All right, here we go. So yeah, that's how it works. Pretty easy little button thing there, and it's Tuesday, February 23rd, 9:00. Hey, like I say, we're gonna go live at 9, and we never do.
Really? Is it always a little late, or?
Yeah, it's whenever.
Okay,
that's whenever.
Yeah.
But hey, this is Chris Mosley. I've known Chris for oh my gosh,
a long time.
I don't even know. Like, let's think about it. So. I met you through CP.
Years. Yeah.
So it was through CP.
Mm-hmm.
You were drawing. You were. I knew you. You introduced me to Pink Floyd.
Yeah. It was middle school then.
Yeah.
I didn't get into punk until high school.
And I remember listening. You introduced me to Pixies.
Mm-hmm.
And Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that stuff. Man, like, you're probably responsible for all the music I like.
I think you had your own taste. You were into some like throwback stuff, like Ray Charles and Conway Twitty and stuff that
that's true
has held up. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
You had your own style in a way too.
That's true.
Yeah,
I do bring a little bit of country to it, but you know the band that I've started to appreciate a lot is Silver Jews.
Oh yeah, they're amazing. Yeah.
I love them. I'm so sad I didn't get to see them.
Yeah, well, they played exactly one show, I think, in Denton. Yeah, it was amazing. It's too bad.
I know, and now he died. He died, was it last year? In 2020?
I think it was 2019, actually. Yeah, but that's awful. And he's from Dallas, so of course that's like something to be proud of, you know?
Yeah, I didn't realize he was from here.
Yeah.
I know he sings about Dallas in some of his songs.
Yeah, and I heard that he even lived in Plano at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I actually have not told anybody this.
Okay.
So I probably shouldn't tell it right now, but whatever. Never mind, I'm not going to tell you.
What?
No.
What a cliffhanger.
No, there's nobody even here. There's nobody even here to ask. If anybody asks me, then I don't think there's anybody here, so it doesn't matter. Otherwise, I'll just tell you off stream.
Okay.
But let's talk about our early days. So obviously okay, you know what? I made a decision, and I'm going to make it right now.
Okay.
This is my 11th episode.
Okay.
And in every episode, I've kind of gone through and I say, like, how do we know each other?
Right.
Tell me about this thing. Tell me about that thing. We just kind of do progressions through life.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way it's gone every time.
Okay.
That's fine. That works. But I was inspired at dinner.
Uh-huh.
So you came over here for dinner. So for people who don't know how it works on the show, is I just randomly text you out of the blue and I say, hey, I'm doing a show. You want to come over? Mm-hmm. And then you said, yeah. And we picked a date and we rescheduled a couple times and then you're here.
Right.
Then we have dinner with Gracie and we haven't seen each other in a couple years. So basically we just have dinner, we just talk, and then we hang out for a bit, do a little bit of prep work, and then we go live. Mm-hmm. So like if anybody is watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're here live, then you know. That's just kind of how it works. Mm-hmm. So as we were sitting there, I was writing some notes, but I changed my mind. I was like, all I want to do is listen to you tell stories.
Okay.
Because somebody told me recently that I'm a good storyteller, but I realized that I learned from you. Because you're the best storyteller I know.
Wow, that is a huge compliment. And the pressure is way too high after saying something like that. But, yeah, I usually, I really like prompts.
Okay, so here's a prompt.
Like when I take someone's photo,
yeah,
I always give them a prompt to get them to make a certain expression, and then I snap it.
Yeah.
So, I'll say something like, imagine, like I'll, pull up the phone and I'll say, imagine you were in a coma and your family went through all of your text messages. How would that make you feel? And then I take the picture as soon as they give me the expression. and people really don't like it. It really rubs people the wrong way. So I don't recommend that. But you do get really amazing photos of people's faces. It's like unreal. Yeah, so...
I like it. Well, you're in a mask, so that kind of hurts that. But that's fine. I appreciate you wearing a mask. It's cool. It's awesome. I think it's a good thing. That you're like doing it.
Yeah. I am super careful, I would like to think, but I think that's a spectrum, and not everyone agrees on what being careful is. So
right.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So that kind of buys me a little bit there on the facial thing. But before I ask you to just start telling stories, we should introduce you. So I know you as a rock and roll star musician who went on tours across the country and released 3 albums, and I still listen to them, and I know a lot of people who listen to them. I know you as that. I also know you as a journalist who's written some awesome articles that I read, and I see you post them, and they're always funny, and you always have really strong opinion on stuff. And I know you've lived a lot of different places, and I want to talk to you about those things. But
sure,
how else would you like? That's pretty broad. So like, how else would you introduce yourself and tell people what you do and that kind of stuff?
I've been a writer for about 15, 16 years now. In mostly paid capacity, so I know a lot of people maybe judge writing on whether or not you're paid for it. That makes you a writer or not. I don't necessarily agree, but I've just been mostly a journalist, sometimes a critic. Sometimes that can be complicated because there's a lot of perceived bias, of course, in the media. So if you're known as a critic, then occasionally I will report on a car crash or something. But they generally want you to do one or the other. It's kind of hard sometimes to pick between being a reporter or a critic because it can go 2 very different ways. So, but I would say I've just lived as a freelance writer for a while. I've also done some music programming and things like that. Briefly worked in the music industry.
That's awesome. Okay, so now that all that is done, like we've handled the business side of it. We're like all formal. Now let's get non-formal. Just tell stories.
Okay.
So I would love to hear the story. So let me just tell you. Let's talk about college days.
Oh, yeah.
So college days, you were my first ever roommate.
Okay.
I remember when I moved, I'm going to open the window because it's kind of hot.
And I think you were mine.
I remember my mom cried. My mom was mad at me for moving out.
For what? For moving out of the house?
For moving out of the house.
Really?
She was mad at me and she cried.
Aw. I guess my mom kind of.
But hey, guess what? I never told anybody that I cried when you moved out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so you moved out before me. And I remember you had it all cleaned out, and they came by and they did the inspection, and they charged me for not cleaning up well or whatever. But I remember just looking around that room and thinking like, man, what great times we had in here, man.
Yeah, we did.
I remember coming in from parties, or no, you would always have parties.
Oh, yeah, I did.
You would always have parties. I would come home and I just wanted to study. And there'd be furniture turned upside down. There was always people there. There was always girls there. And all I would do was I would just sit over there and play Tetris. Do you remember?
Yeah, you played that. Maybe some Final Fantasy.
I played some Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah.
And then I played Tetris. I remember Seth watching me play Tetris. And then he would play with me every once in a while.
Okay, yeah.
So I would love to hear you tell some stories about those times, but especially about you recording the album, because you recorded the album Early Lines of Tired Beasts. You guys were pretty influential, I'd say, in my life, because I was, same age as you. It was an influential time.
Right.
So to be around all that music,
a
lot of music that you introduced me to. I remember coming home and you playing a record. I remember hearing music on the record. You played Beach Boys' Pet Sounds on the record player.
Okay.
And it sounded incredible. And I was like, man, I've never heard a record sound different.
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's enough.
Did you not grow up around records?
No, we didn't have a record player.
Okay.
No. So tell me the story about you recording the album with your first album. How did you record it?
It was Our Tired Beasts, and that was December of '99. And
the band is Early Lines.
It was Early Lines. We just, I think we were gonna make a 4-song demo and a 4-track, and I think I said, wouldn't it be funny if we just did our demo with Steve Albini, because it's so ridiculous and over the top. So I wrote him an email and asked about recording and called, and they just, he used to be kind of like a sliding scale. If you were a smaller band, he'd charge you a lot less than he would a big band. So it's still a lot of money for us, though. At that time, I'm 19, probably making $10 an hour at a video store or something. So sometimes it blows my mind that we were able to scrape all those thousands of dollars together.
How much was it?
Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. I think it was $400 a day for the studio, and then $250 a day for Steve's fee, which is relatively cheap, honestly, in the recording industry.
Right.
And then there were tape costs, and then travel and all that. So we recorded 14 songs in 2 days, which is a horrible idea. And we didn't really know how to explain ourselves, and so it doesn't really sound like it should, but it was a great experience recording. It's just that, you know, when something costs pretty much more or less $1,000 a day, you kind of have to be very efficient.
Yeah.
So I've never recorded an album locally. I've only recorded in Chicago or Michigan, because his interns started their own studio called Key Club, and I went back there later for the second band, Nouns Group.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you've been in 2. Okay. So you have Early Lines, which is you and Seth. What's Seth Sherman?
Seth Sherman, yeah.
And Danny Doyle.
Mm-hmm.
And just explain the band, because the band is amazing. Explain how you did it.
Well, Dan and I had known each other since kindergarten, and we met Seth in high school, and he got us into all sorts of music, a lot of experimental stuff and hardcore punk, and, you know, pretty much we were open to anything, even some contemporary kind of classical stuff. And yeah, Seth was a huge influence. He knew so much about music from a really young age. And basically we eventually just started playing together because we didn't really get along with anyone else as far as music taste goes.
Yeah.
Because they knew a bunch of people who could play, but they would be into the Red Hot Chili Peppers or something, and it just isn't gonna, it's not gonna work. So we didn't have a drummer, so we just bought a drum set, and we all traded off instruments after a lot of songs. So we all played everything, and so there were kind of some awkward times at the shows, the switching off.
No, it wasn't awkward. It was great. It was such an awesome thing. I've been telling kind of, anytime I describe Early Lines, I always talk about that, because I think that's what made you guys distinct, is the fact that all of your songs sounded so different, was because, you know, they were.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was basically, 3 different singers. So, Dan always said he felt like he was in a band with Seth, and he felt like he was in a band with me, but he never felt like me and Seth were in the same band, which I always thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
But and they're both still solo artists now, that just play under their own names.
Yeah.
And they've continued to both be really active. I mean, Dan really outdid us all, because he ended up touring Europe.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was telling me about that the other day, and it was just really fascinating.
Wow.
Yeah. And
he's super impressive, because is he still doing a solo thing, or does he have a band?
He's done both. I think currently he's probably only solo. I mean, the pandemic really stopped a lot of band practices around the world, so...
So what is he still doing it where he'll play one thing, record it, and then loop it back, and then it's really cool. Yeah,
his one-man band thing is great.
Yeah.
When did you see that?
I saw him in Austin.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. When you were visiting?
It was a long time ago. I wish I could have seen him more, but it was hard.
Yeah, it was pretty brilliant, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do have some Early Line song here. Should we play it? And if so, which one should we play?
Oh boy. You know, someone asked me recently why I never played my music for them. And I finally did. And then, you know, it was too much, I think. Like, it ended up being like, I mean, this person looked like kind of traumatized sitting in my back seat after it was over. I was just like, okay, well, you know, you asked. So.
I could see that, because you have to remember, this is a 19-year-old Mosley who's experienced trauma.
Yeah.
They weren't fun times.
No. So we had basically just lived through a really rough drug epidemic that, you know, I think on my birthday party, for some reason, the other night, it wasn't really a party, it was like 2 people, but they were asking, like the first funerals I went to, all that stuff, but, you know, basically Plano had a huge drug problem and was known around the world for it. And yeah, it took out, you know, I think half a dozen people I knew from school. So,
oh my gosh.
So pretty serious, yeah. But yeah, so a lot of the songs were about the angst, I think, from that, a lot of that era of time. So, but that being said, what are these?
All right, so we've got, my collection is not complete, and it's very Mosley, heavy. We do have High School, we have Ghosts of Collin Creek, NPR, Song the Bells Just Made, Grass Maze, Come Rest Your Head, there's a Seth in there.
Yeah.
Aline Mendenhall, which is a school, right?
Yeah, that was where Dan and I met in kindergarten, yeah.
Farmer and the User. Here, let me just show these. 18th Street Heat, Turn Off Those Lights is another Dan song. History Book Destroyed, By the Time You Read This, I'll Be Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Slicing My Days, Growl a Lot. We got a lot.
Yeah. I think, to me, in a way, I think Birth Burial is the most early line song.
Okay.
Because it starts off with so much chaos.
Yeah.
And then ends really softly.
Let's
and it kind of like shows the range. I could never play like this again, I don't think. I'm just drumming here. But then at the end, there's like a 3-part harmony where we're all singing.
Oh, it's not. It's picking it up through that. It should be okay. I can't tell. They might not be able to hear that.
They might not?
I don't know. I think they can. I'll turn it up. Let me see how it sounds. Okay, thanks, Lex. So yes, complete chaos.
Yes, and then it kind of goes into this just noisy, like we had a trash can filled with nuts and bolts that Dan had to wear oven mitts to smash into the ground, like in the second year. And yeah, you can just there's a lot of yelling.
There's quite a bit of yelling.
Yeah.
I'm imagining you doing this in the studio.
Yeah. The record originally was supposed to start with 10 minutes of screaming, but then we realized that even 1 minute is actually maybe way too much. So, yeah, we cut it down from 10 minutes.
Yeah. That's probably a good choice.
Yeah.
Like looking back on it now, as a 19-year-old, it probably sounded like a great idea.
Right, yeah.
But Steve Albini was like, who talked you out of that?
He was pretty good at talking us out of certain ideas, yeah. That might have been one. And then it gets all calm right here.
Yeah, then we get beautiful.
So all 3 of us are singing here, which is not common.
Right.
But,
I had the original version of this song on what's called the Wheeler Sessions. Do you remember? Do you remember?
Yes. I still have that on CD.
I've been trying to find a way through. I was trying to find a way through, a way through.
So, Interesting that you've chosen that song as your because I've never played that song because it's such a hard one to get through. So one that I would play is this one. Okay. I almost always play this one as the first song to introduce people to the early lines. I think it's really a high quality song.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, well, the album was dedicated to a good friend of ours who passed. What I was discussing earlier, the epidemic, and so yeah, there's a recording of us at the beginning, kind of like fooling around with a snare drum. She played band in high school, so. But yeah, this is like a slow, sad song, though. Is this a great intro?
It's pretty.
Okay, well.
And then Stripper's Taxes is like all of these, but it's really pretty. But it's pretty, and it tells a story. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of emotion in it.
Yeah.
And this is you singing.
This is me. It's actually one of the few songs that Dan and I co-wrote. So, the little part at the end is actually him, and that was on the Wheeler sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah. In its original form.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we probably should have written together more, but, you know.
Yeah.
It kind of all happened organically.
Yeah. Well, I guess we could just leave this playing in the background because I don't think it's going to hurt anything. It's not copyrighted.
Right,
we'll just certainly leave it. We'll just leave it playing, and we'll just kind of have it as background music because you don't need to stop it down for it or anything. But
right,
yeah. But I love it. I still listen to it every day, and
thank you.
Not every day, but yeah.
No, I got you.
But yeah. What about when you were recording? You saw Kim Deal, right? What was that like?
She was in town. This was in 2001 when we were doing a record called Hate the Living, Love the Dead. And she just happened to be in town for Steve Albini's girlfriend's birthday party. So they ordered Krispy Kreme donuts, like catered the party. So
hold on, we should reset though. Because we're over here talking about Steve Albini and Kim Deal, as everybody knows who these people are, but like a lot of people probably don't know who they are. Okay. So Steve Albini is
a recording engineer and musician and writer, who was probably a lot more of an influence in those years. I mean, I was a teenager when I recorded with him. And he's a very outspoken kind of critic of big music business corruption, and had a very sharp wit. As a rock critic, he was really, really vicious. And he's kind of like walked back a lot of that stuff over the years. But still, like, I don't know. It was very interesting to get insulted so often by someone you're paying so much money to. But he actually had a little talking animal puppet, like a little bear puppet.
Oh my gosh.
That he would like say really insulting things to us.
Wow.
Like while using a hand puppet. I mean, that's very eccentric. You know, this is supposed to be like a professional setting. And, he would just... we'd brought this like a gamelan, like an Indonesian bell that we were also hitting. And he'd bring the bear into the room and be like, I bet you think that's going to make your recording sound interesting. You know, just like really mean things. Or like... So, I think at one point I think I actually rolled my eyes and like slammed the door or something because I couldn't take any more like bear talk. Yeah. But, he's incredibly efficient and good at what he does. You just, you have to be very honest and push him to do what you really want him to do. Rather than, if you just let him go on his own, he's just going to play online poker.
Seriously?
Yeah, he plays a lot of that. And he's just going to, it's hard to explain. It's almost like, he has his own recording philosophy, but if you want the drum to sound huge, you have to say it. He's not just going to do it. And I think a lot of people assume he's just going to do it. But, but I learned a lot. He taught us a lot, I think, about putting your own music out in the world and, things like that. But I learned a lot from his interns, too. They were great when they started their own studio that I went to in Michigan later in life.
Yeah. And then Kim Deal is, of course, from Pixies fame
Mm-hmm.
and Breeders. Was she also Breeders?
She was, and she was also the Amps, which is actually my
Yeah.
favorite thing she did. I still think that's a perfect record. But yeah, she was there in town for a birthday party, so I was straight edge at the time, and she was smoking this huge spliff, and she told us that we could go get her secret beer stash.
Yeah.
So she led us into Steve's office, and he had a little tiny fridge, and she pulls out 3 beers, and there's 4 of us. So it's Early Lines and Kim huddled in Steve's office in the dark. And she goes, here, and she hands me the first beer, and I was like, oh, well, I was like, actually, I don't drink. And she goes, well, you're no fun, which is like amazing that one of my biggest heroes, like, that's what she had to say to me. And then she led us into the living room, and there was someone from a band called the Sadies there too, I think. And she made us watch Casino on VHS, because they have a huge movie library at the studio, but only the first video, because she thinks the second VHS tape was too depressing.
It is. It's so depressing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that movie's hard, man.
Yeah. So to this day, I've only seen the first.
You never saw the second
I never
one?
saw the second half.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you should.
Yeah, but it was incredible. But she just liked all the glamour, she said. She liked the glamorous part. It was like the best part. So
Yeah.
So yeah, the next morning I made her, asked her to take a photo with me, because she was like, had a suitcase and was about to get on a plane. I'm like, oh my God, here's my chance. I was like, hey, I'm a huge fan. I've been trying not to be a fan, because like we tried to play it really cool and not ask anything and not be weird, but like it's very strange to stay in a place where someone you respect that much is there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So my favorite photo probably that I own is me and her, and there happened to be a bunch of roses on the counter for this woman's birthday, so she picked up the roses and said, let's make it pretty. But it's like, one of the coolest things that ever happened to me.
Do you still have it? Like, do you still have it handy in some fashion? Like, is it online or anything?
It's on my Instagram.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have to find. Maybe you can. I'll post it. Maybe you can reply back and tag that in the thing.
Sure. Yeah, I'll send it.
I'd love to see that. That's awesome.
But she was really fun. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes, obviously, meeting heroes of yours or something can go awry.
Yeah.
And so it just couldn't be more perfect. It felt like a magical thing.
That's awesome. So wow, you were 20 or 19, and she was what? How old was she?
I was 21. I don't know actually how old she is. We can look that up.
Probably 10 years older than you.
It's got to be more than that.
So if you think about it, like how would you interact with a 21-year-old?
Oh, right.
Like it would be the same.
Yeah.
But it's such a big deal when you're the other way looking up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I would hand a 21-year-old beer. But it was, it was all very, that was my first experience ever being like, around an actual rock star.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So then you broke up with the Early Line. Your Early Lines broke up. You've been in a couple other bands, but then you moved on from being a musician. Do you play anymore at all?
I play a little at home. I've been trying to teach myself piano for the past couple years, so that's mainly what I focused on. I want to do one more thing at some point, but
what do you want to do?
I think I want to just go back and play my favorite stuff from all the bands I was in just once, like as a solo person with a backing band maybe.
I love it.
So I'll do someday, I think I'll do like a sort of a, you know what I mean, like a retrospective or something.
How cool is that?
But because I think some of the other stuff that I did later I really liked. It was just never released.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
I'm trying to put everything online now. So
what bands are you listening to now?
Currently, I have a 2021 playlist. Let me think. There's a ridiculous band. I feel like it's bad to check my phone, but what have I been listening to? I'm wearing a Dark Entry shirt. I could just name anything on that label. I go back and try to make myself listen to things a lot that I've ignored, or I'll take a lot of music from people's Instagram stories. Like I have a second phone, so I'll Shazam people's Instagram stories sometimes. I get some stuff off TikTok occasionally. Like I try to actually, I'm getting older, but I'm still trying to be like very aware of what's happening in culture changing all the time.
Yeah. Do you ever listen to the radio?
Yeah, a little bit. But I think there was a group called Magdalena Bay. They had a song called I Hate You. But it was very like funny. It's kind of like upbeat and poppy. It wasn't like and yeah, I just, it's funny because the way streaming culture works, of course, is that things can be deleted like at the touch of a button, which is strange. So a song that's available one week won't be available the next. It'll be grayed out, and that's just, it's very strange because, once upon a time, no one could take that, offline so easily. But yeah. So I've noticed that my playlists are constantly evolving because so much gets taken off of there.
Yeah.
And I liked a woman singer named Limbo. Had a song about Tinder, which I thought was really funny. And it was like the Tinder noises were made into the sample that made the song. But I try to just keep up with stuff, I would say.
How would you rank going mainstream? Let's go hip hop. Mainstream hip hop.
Mainstream hip hop?
Kind of. How would you rank Notorious B.I.G., Tupac, and Eminem?
Biggie to me is the best. And I think rhythmically it's really what made him so different from everyone else. So I only like Tupac as a foil to Biggie. Like that story, of course, is so tragic and dramatic, and so occasionally I will listen to like, Tupac's hate songs or whatever. Eminem, I can't do. I have like a handful of artists who really ruined the like late '90s, early 2000s for me, and it just reminds me of that kind of the bleached hair and the backwards baseball hats, like, because Eminem was really kind of a sort of like the rap version of like what was going on with like Korn and nu metal and all that stuff to me. Do you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. It's funny.
A lot of white rap is what I'm saying. So, which it's just, it has like this certain quality to it. Like I feel like the rapping is really just trying to like, kind of break something down for me. It's just like, I can only handle it in small quantities. But Eminem is just like, it just doesn't feel like a sympathetic figure. And I know he's extremely talented. It's just, I don't know. What's really funny to me is nowadays I'll meet like Gen Z people, like people are 25 or something. And like, I knew a woman once who had like a photo of Eminem with like candles in front of it. Like,
I know.
Like
it's
younger
so
people really worship Eminem more so than people my age, I feel like. So that's very odd.
I think it's because of the talent gap. Because what I find to be hilarious. So I actually love Eminem. I'm a huge Eminem fan. But I love that you don't. It's funny. I like it. But I find it hilarious that as we can listen to modern rap and be like, well, back in my day, people actually had skill and point to freaking Eminem. Imagine Eminem as a time of being like adored. There's no way. There's no way, but you can't ignore the talent. That's the thing that gets me every time, is the talent. And especially when you compare it to modern hip hop, it's just like, it's night and day.
I know. I do. I think I've never wanted hip hop to be, it's like a responsibility politics thing. Like, I don't demand that hip hop and rap, I don't care how dumb it is. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like,
Yeah.
like I do like really. I was thinking about this the other night. I heard was it Eighth Chamber? I think by Jizza came on, I think, or something, and it's got some of the most like lyrically complicated verses you've ever heard, and I do love it. But I also think when I hear stuff nowadays that seems like very lowest common denominator to some people, I still like it too.
I do too. I like it too.
Yeah,
I do too.
Like,
I think as it was interesting because growing up around you was very critical. Like, I had a very critical attitude towards music and would think like, well, this is dumb. Like, is this not good or whatever? I think about like the Adventure Club. And I say growing up around you, but it's really just a teenage thing, I think.
Yeah.
But then now as an old man, I've grown to like just like appreciate like almost everything I listen to, I like.
Yeah. Because
I listen to it with just a different ear, and it's not a critical ear, and it's just like, oh, like I like this. But so many people around me, it drives them crazy. Like, I'm like, no, like I like Lil Wayne. I think Lil Wayne is great. Yeah. And like Gracie and Noah are like, change it, please. Really? And I'm like, oh, this is great.
That's really funny.
It's funny. I rarely change it unless I have someone with me. If I have someone with me, then I feel like I got to find something that they like, because people, I feel, are a lot more picky than I am. But yeah.
I remember you had a really good open attitude for the most part about music. You had one complaint which I've never forgotten, and it was you said you're so extreme, it's either got to be the hardest music ever or the softest music ever. Like, and there's never any in between. And I think that's kind of true.
That's funny.
I didn't like a lot of, I think, middle of the road stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought your quest to find this balance, something that wasn't too hard or too soft, like you were looking for Goldilocks porridge.
Was I? I never thought of myself that way. Because I love shellac and I love Prayer to God. So I told that story recently because that was, okay, change the subject here. Uh-huh. Did you know that Gracie had a big crush on you? You should have. Yeah, come on. Who doesn't have a big crush on you?
In high school?
Like, the reason she would come over to the house, the only reason that she knows me is because she wanted to come over and hang out with you. I
thought it was because she was trying to meet someone. I thought that because I was kind of a dating service back then.
No, she likes you.
Okay, well, I didn't think that was why.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's...
I thought it was actually because she knew guys hung out at my house. And ladies did too, but, it's like it was a good place to meet someone. Like, we had a little... a hub.
It was Party Central.
Yeah. So...
Yeah. So anyway, so you introduced me to shellac, and you introduced me to Gracie, and we went to our first, it was Up in Smoke tour together, and there's so many stories from that. But
that's a great first date.
It was Up in Smoke. Well, actually, the first date was my birthday party.
Okay.
Remember that? You were supposed to play. Early Lions were supposed to play my birthday party, and you guys got into an accident.
Oh wow, we did.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I had to give Gracie a ride home.
Wow.
Because she rode there with you, but since you didn't have a ride home because whatever, you had an accident.
Right.
So you didn't get to play the party. You played it. Did you play by yourself?
I don't think so.
Maybe it was Danny. Somebody played a solo, just a little couple of songs, just to be nice.
Might have been Dan. He's good at that.
He is. Man, I remember our wedding, he did remember? Was it you and him? Did sing together? It was just him.
Probably just him.
I think it was just him. He sang something, and then him and CP went out dancing and stuff.
Oh, right. Yeah. Incredible dancer. He's incredible at weddings. Yeah, I saw Dan crash an open mic night recently. It was amazing because...
Open mic night? Which is what? Just talking?
No. You get up
and you play. Okay.
You play your own songs. And he, very humbly, like, I don't know. He goes up to... ask the guy hosting the open mic, like, hey, could I borrow your guitar to like play a few songs? And because the host was also playing, and he just smoked these songs. He played a Silver Jew song. He played Random Rules. He played Stone Ponies, different drum, and he's like dedicating a song to each person. He's just like, it's like seeing a pool hustler like play somebody. Yeah, it was great.
I love Danny.
Yeah, he's
I gotta
amazing.
see him again. Okay, so South by Southwest. You've been to South by Southwest in Austin 13 times?
I went 13 years in a row, yeah. Because I lived in Austin in 2003, that we had moved down there as a band. And, I didn't know what to think of South by Southwest, but I worked at a record store during one, and it was just so fun. And I don't know, we had different bands playing in the store every day, and so I went every year after that, yeah, and saw a lot of really great things. I saw Yoko Ono and all sorts of stuff that's hugely important to me.
How many bands do you think you've seen?
In my life?
Over 200?
Oh, yeah, easily. I don't know how many. I used to go to shows on average about 3 times a week for just years and years.
Do you have a favorite show you've seen?
Of all time?
You have top 5 or anything like that? Like, what are some of your favorites?
I saw this Dutch anarchist band called The X.
Yes!
Yeah.
I remember The X.
Right. And so I saw them play in a high school cafeteria in Houston once, and it's really... It's on YouTube. I watch it all the time, and I cry sometimes watching it. I actually run an Instagram page for The X called Fans of The X International or something.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
But, yeah, so that was just a life-changing show.
Yeah.
It was just, I think a lot of our music was influenced by them, or at least a lot of mine was.
Yeah.
And, they had a cello in the band, and that's why I added a violin later. I was kind of trying to take a lot from them, but they're very... It's
all right, Mewtwo. You can say penis. Sorry.
Like they toured Ethiopia. Like they're just the most unconventional band.
Yeah.
And their stories about it are so amazing. So
damn.
Yeah. So I was hugely influenced by them for sure.
And what else? What are some other ones? My personal my personal favorite was with you, and it was Steve Albini's band Shellac.
Okay.
With the local balance band The New Year.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
That was a great show.
Because I was so impressed by his ability to just talk to the audience. In between every song, he would take questions.
Right. They are, I should say. They're very entertaining.
Yeah.
Their ability to fill up space is just like, yeah.
Well, then my car got broken into.
Right. Which is a very Deep Ellum thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
And was that the time we slept under the newspapers? Was that you? No, that was a different time.
Slept under the newspaper.
It was so cold, but it was one of those times because it's not like it's not an uncommon thing,
right?
To either have your car broken into or have it stolen or towed or whatever.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of problems.
So I've had multiple instances of being stranded in Deep Ellum and when it's cold and just trying to stay warm under like newspapers.
That's awful. Wow, I did not know this.
Yeah, but staying warm. Man, we haven't experienced anything like that like last week. Right.
And once that was over, I actually went and walked around Deep Ellum like the first warm day, and people were going bonkers. It was seriously like a championship parade or something. I mean, there were just people like yelling from the rooftops and blasting rap everywhere. It was great.
Just because it was so warm?
Yeah.
It wasn't frozen?
Everyone was just partying. And, that's not the best idea right now. But it was nice to see like people being happy because it was just the winter storm was obviously very tragic and awful.
Yeah. What's your favorite place you've lived
in my life?
Yeah.
I think Los Angeles.
You prefer LA over? So you've lived in Dallas, Austin, and LA. How would you rank them?
I would say, oh gosh. Los Angeles for sure is a really interesting city. It just has so much to learn about, and like there's a book about it called City of Quartz that everyone's required to read or something if you move there. That has just how layered and interesting it is. Dallas and Austin, I would say, are kind of tied.
Really?
Yeah,
interesting.
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've spent most of my time in Dallas, so I know more about it. But they both have their high highs and low lows.
Mm.
Yeah.
How so?
Gosh, well, Austin for me is just getting a little bit, I don't know. It's just turning into like this kind of like, it's like the new tech hub.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how that's gonna change the city in the next 40 years.
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah, it's the biggest stage right now. Sometimes.
Interesting.
Yeah. Dallas. It's my home. I have complicated feelings about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's. I think when I left when I left Dallas for LA, I really thought that I probably wasn't going to come back. So I was a little bit flippant when I left.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Oh, I bet if you knew that you were going to come back so soon, you wouldn't have been telling everyone to like screw off, basically, And I was like, no, I'd do it the exact same way if I left tomorrow.
Yeah.
You got to stick to, your true self sometimes.
So, you lived in LA for how long?
I just lived there for 2016, pretty much.
Mm.
But yeah, not that long. But it was a great experience, and I'd go back in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it just the cost that brought you home, or what?
Well, things kind of dry up when everything just shuts down by Thanksgiving. So it's kind of like if you didn't figure out what you were going to do by then, it's hard to stick around.
So you just moved there just trying to find something, and then...
No, I moved there for a job.
Okay.
So I went to work briefly in the music industry for a management company. It's kind of like talent management and managing a roster of bands. And yeah, but that job, like a lot of things there, it's just it's what I would call the cool Olympics. Everyone's just so cool, and it's very cutthroat and competitive. So
wow.
Yeah, but it's great. I used a lot of my connections there to then later on when I was working at a museum, I got to program a bunch of music there, and so I worked on it with a guy I knew from LA. So it actually helped make my life easier in some ways.
Yeah,
because now I had all these connections. So those are important.
Yeah,
when you're trying to
connections are everything. Yeah,
hire a 70-year-old guy who played in a band called Suicide to come to basically a children's event. I just made sure to never use the name of his band, but that's what he was most known for. So it was really hard. And this was like a band that influenced Bruce Springsteen and all this. They
right.
But this guy was so old, very extreme artist. Martin Rev. Yeah. But so I feel like LA kind of helped me to figure some things out.
Yeah. Have you heard about the Pidascot situation? What's Pidascot? I'm not sure what that is.
Where is it?
It's the very bottom at Pidascot. I don't know what that is. I don't know.
No, I have not.
And then, okay, so then let's talk about your recent article, because I was just going through and obviously following you a little bit more closely on social media, because you're going to be on the show, and I saw your post about the romantic comedies.
Right.
Let's actually, before we do that, I want to talk. So, Line Piece Lex is my co-host. Mm-hmm. She's never been to Dallas. Okay. She's going to be coming to Dallas next week. Okay. What would you recommend someone who hasn't been to Dallas do?
Coming from where?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay. What should someone do?
Yeah. AKA West Coast Scott.
If you're going to go to Dallas, oh boy, I have a whole guide I can send you.
Okay.
I have Chris Mosley's Guide to Dallas.
Okay.
I have one for LA and one for Dallas.
Awesome.
And yeah, I can break it down by where you would go to eat or drink, or
cool.
Yeah, what public institutions to go to, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, because Dallas is a city where everything costs something, though. There's not a lot of just free public space that's, conducive to visiting.
Yeah.
For the most part. There's Clyde Warren Park, maybe.
Yep.
But it's like, when it comes down to it, I mean, it's just like a patch of grass on top of a highway, you know.
Right.
So
It's
not the.
Yeah.
You go to other cities, sometimes it's like, whoa.
Right.
They
There's
really,
mountains and stuff.
Yeah. Even just the way the city's designed. I mean, Dallas is historically.
Boston is a good example of a city that's well laid out.
Yeah.
So they clarified here, West Coast Scott. West Coast Scott sound familiar to you?
No.
No, it doesn't sound familiar.
Sorry.
Me neither. Sorry about that. So anyway, okay, cool. So she'll be here next week. I'm going to show her. I'm recommending that she go check out Fort Worth. I think Fort Worth is super cool.
Yeah.
Because I think Fort Worth is what people from the outside think Dallas is. I think people think Dallas is a bunch of cowboy stuff, and it's not.
Right.
But Fort Worth is.
Fort Worth.
And they own it.
Right.
They are proud of it.
Yeah. They don't hide it, no.
Right. Like their downtown is a stockyard.
Right.
So I love Fort Worth. I love the comedy show there. Have you seen the 4-Day Weekend?
No.
So that's an improv show there.
Okay.
It's one of the longest running improv shows I think around, and I've seen him 3 or 4 times, and every time I've seen him, it's really good. So I'd recommend that.
Yeah.
So nice. I can actually give you a recommendation.
And the Modern Art Museum in Fort Worth. I've taught there a few times, and it's really an amazing institution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So now let's talk about your romantic comedy. So talk about that one. So just tell the story. I love your story.
Well, it's just that basically, I mean, I guess the people who assign this, of all the people in the world, and they know really famous writers. Like I get to write alongside people who are really, really successful. But of all the people in the world, they thought to slam romantic comedies, they chose me, which, it just made me do some soul searching.
People know you.
Yeah, but I do find it a little troubling that someone would think of me for that.
So this is a national magazine. This isn't just your local Dallas person saying, hey, we need a piece. This is people...
Yeah, they work at 30 Rock, yeah.
This is people at 30 Rock,
mm-hmm.
nationally known people here.
Well, they probably work from home now, I guess, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are looking for someone across the country who can bash romantic comedies. They're like, we need somebody. It's probably easy to find somebody who likes romantic comedies,
mm-hmm.
but we need somebody who hates them.
Right. And
who's the guy? Put out the bat signal. Who comes up?
Yeah, and for some reason they thought of me, but I really did my research. Like I read an entire book on someone giving advice about how to write romantic comedies.
Yeah.
So I really got into like the skeleton of how formulaic it all is. And so like one of the top pieces of advice in the book was don't copy other writers. I was like, someone has to tell you that? So like, they're just like, be original. It's like, oh, okay, well that's like probably the hardest thing to do, I guess. If we're gonna, because it's just such a by the numbers thing that was, designed in the earliest days of entertainment. So it's really like, it's a fixture. But I know that some people are very cerebral about romantic comedies, and I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any that you like?
It wasn't like hate.
Yeah.
Oh, do I have one I like? That's such a complicated question. I wish you hadn't asked me that. But I do think the bigger challenge, in a way, one of my friends was like, I wish you had written for them. That would have been way more interesting.
It would have been interesting.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this point, that's a nationally published, it's an opinion website.
Yeah.
Called Think. So, I think my favorite thing I ever got to do for them, besides writing about K-pop or the Super Bowl, was it was when Tool released a record and had taken Taylor Swift off the #1 chart, and all their fans, as we know now on Twitter, like everyone just clashed. It was one big, huge war between like Taylor Swift's fans and Tool fans, and I basically kind of really wrote like more of a takedown of Tool and their fans, and that I still get hate mail over that sometimes.
Seriously?
Yeah. I still get random tweets about it.
What's that like to have your work just put out there, and is that intimidating, and do you think about that a lot?
I got used to it in the blog era. I think I used to write for this blog that was someone else's idea, and it was hugely successful for him. So I don't feel bad saying that I wrote for a popular blog because I didn't make it up, he did. But yeah, we used to get, you know, we would call it like a 200 comment Tuesday or something.
Wow.
You know, so
What the name of the blog was?
We Shot JR.
Is it still around or no?
You can look it up. It should still be there in some form. But yeah, we used to get so many death threats and hate mail that, you know, once you get past that, it doesn't really even bother you that much anymore. Now it's kind of more surprising to see that. But at some point I just got used to it.
What would people get so upset about?
You know, the weirdest thing is that people get upset more not when you bash something, but when you like something that they don't understand. That nothing makes people more upset than bad vocals. Like, vocals really drive people crazy more than anything else in music. Like, they are the most polarizing thing, I think. So,
yeah.
But yeah, we didn't really like spell it out, but we championed a lot of more underground type music, obviously. And at the time, you know, that the local music scene was just so kind of by the book. So we were pushing a lot of stuff that we thought was a little more unusual. And that really, you know, I think the popular kids felt like the weirdos took over, and because the site got popular so fast.
Like, what do you mean by popular?
I don't know. We had like, I don't know the exact numbers, but they were big numbers. That when I went on to work for, because then eventually I worked for like magazines and newspapers, we couldn't get the kinds of numbers that we had as just a blog.
Wow.
So, yeah, I don't know.
And it was just two of you just writing articles about music?
We had a host of co-collaborators. There was a group of photographers that we'd send out to shoot shows, and posting party pics was a big thing back then. This was like the American Apparel Cobra Snake era, so that was a thing that people did back then. There was just constantly slideshows of parties.
And this was before the internet, right?
No, this is
no, but it was like the internet wasn't like Instagram days.
Right. This was 2006, so it's like
we had internet, but it wasn't like this.
We didn't have social media. Like,
right, you didn't have social media.
Social media was kind of the beginning. Like, blogs were kind of the beginning of social media, and then that evolved. It was kind of the end of the MySpace era.
Okay.
So MySpace into Facebook, and then Twitter, and then
got it.
So, but you know, back then it was just, and we were using Twitter like not long after it was out to kind of promote everything, and we were ahead of our time in that regard because people at bigger publications were really sometimes slow to adopt some of these things that the blogs were doing. Yeah. So, you know, we had an edge in that regard. But yeah, my first piece of online criticism was posted in '97. So that was early internet, like, for sure, for me anyways.
So you've been posting stuff online and getting negative feedback since you were 17 years old.
Well, it wasn't always negative, you know?
but feedback. Yeah. You know how to handle it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would write a concert review or something and send it to some fan site. Yeah. And then I won an essay contest around the same time to go get music lessons in Boston. And so that's the first time I ever left my state, pretty much. Wow. Because I had won a writing contest. So, but I never planned on being a writer. That happened. It just happened. I didn't. At the time, I wasn't thinking that was something I was going to do.
Do you like being a writer?
You know, there's a lot of... I think it's like known to be like kind of a torturous thing. Yeah. But you know, once it's over, it's so much better. That's the best part. Yeah, that it ends.
Do you do a lot of editing when you write something? Do you just write it and you're done with it, or do you find yourself doing a lot of?
Yeah, no, I worked as an editor too, so I've definitely will go back and change a lot of things. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I'm scared at they asked me to write a blog for work.
Uh-huh.
I'm not scared of it, but I'm intimidated by it. Just the writing process. I've been told by a few people, you should write a book. You should write a book.
Yeah.
And it's man, I don't like words though.
What?
I don't know, man. I think I'm more comfortable just talking than writing.
If you can talk, you can write.
Yeah, I'm starting to think maybe if I just dictate.
Yeah, just dictate and then transcribe it.
Yeah.
Even though transcription is the worst thing ever.
It doesn't feel the same, but maybe.
Right.
Maybe. that Matthew McConaughey book, have you read it? Green
No,
Lights?
I've heard a lot about it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
That was really helpful to me because it taught me that you can just tell stories. Right. They don't have to be formal.
Yeah.
So then that's kind of helped me in some ways. But I've been thinking a little bit about it, and they asked me to write some stuff for work and different things like that. So who knows?
Yeah.
I'm
I know you can do it.
I'm also a little bit curious and interested in getting on stage, and I've always said I wanted to perform in some way,
Mhm.
but I've always thought that I don't have the talent for it. But the Silver Dew song said, all my favorite singers couldn't sing, right?
Right.
So who cares if I suck at it?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I've been thinking just different things. I've been thinking about might want to try some different things.
What about improv?
Maybe.
Since you appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think you could do it. You work on the fly pretty well.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should go outside and talk about that some more.
Okay.
All right, should we call it a show? Anything else you want to talk about?
What quality do you most despise in a person?
Oh, that's an interesting question. That's an interesting way to put it. So you has it have to be a quality?
I'm ripping off the Proust questionnaire that I told you about earlier.
Okay, I like it. So, what quality? Do you have an answer? Do you give me time to think about it?
No. Is admire easier? What quality do you most admire in a person?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's easy. The quality I most admire in a person, because what throws me off in the other question is the fact that you call it a quality. Then it's okay, it's a good thing that I despise, so it makes it hard.
Makes sense.
But if I were to say what quality do I admire most, I would say the ability, resilience. I just call it resilience.
Yeah.
Because I do think that life, I think a lot of times people can see people that have a positive attitude about things, and they think their life must always be good.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's yeah, sometimes. But also a lot of times people, I've seen a lot of people that are super happy and have really positive outlooks on life, and they're in horrible situations.
Right.
But they just have a lot of resilience about them and a lot of gratitude, and just why would I complain about this? Are you kidding me? I have all these great things.
Right.
And that quality I find refreshing, and especially because I do find that I think I used to say that America's favorite pastime was complaining, but I actually think it's just people's favorite pastime, because I'm learning that it's not just Americans.
Well, yeah.
It's really everybody loves complaining.
Right.
So I think the opposite of complaining is my favorite.
Well, I'm surprised you got along with me as a roommate.
Oh no, I love having you, because you're the best. You're a great storyteller, and you're so dramatic and passionate about things. And it's man, that's where I got it. Because you can just take anything and just talk about it with passion, and talk about why it sucks, or why it's the worst thing ever, why it's the best thing ever. Wow. And just go. And I think that gives you an ability as a writer to just, you know what I mean? It's great. It's awesome.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for coming out and doing this. It's just like we were talking about before. This is just an excuse to have friends come over and hang out and catch up with people.
Of course, anytime.
Yeah, man, it's fun. So we'll go ahead and I'll press this button here. And what's the next show you're gonna see?
Are we still rolling?
Yeah.
The next show?
Yeah.
Music?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.